Are you saying there's a sense of urgency as you begin the preseason to get CeeDee done?
No.
No? Why do you say that?
I'm I went to high school. I went to college. I don't know why I said it, but I'm just saying I don't know. I don't have a sense of urgency about getting it done.
Because it's a long-standing tradition.
Pick any reason you want. I said no boo 2 days ago. Give that as a reason.
All right, welcome in to another edition of the One Star Cowboys podcast. I'm Kevin Turner. We have John Machota, Saad Yousuf, and of course Kent Garrison. And John and Saad out in Cali still, and they were there at SoFi Stadium for that barn burner of an exhibition. Preseason game 1, Rams 13, Cowboys 12. Drama at the end. Incredible. A lot of takeaways about that. Imagine that. Jerry has commented on CeeDee Lamb and much more in this edition of the One Star Cowboys podcast. If you're new, thanks for finding it. We have a couple other podcasts that we'd thrown up, a couple episodes we'd thrown up last week, so you can check those out on Apple, on Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, and stay tuned for more in the future because we're going to do a lot of stuff, especially once we get to when the season really starts in September. You can expect 4 to 5 episodes a week out of us with some crazy things. Like, who knows? In episode 1, it was a quick contest on the fly in which I awarded $20 to the person who mentioned Saad's obscure reference of the day. Saad's obscure NFL reference, his NFL player reference, was Tom Savage. And I got a lot of people DMing me. They were coming in a little late because one guy got to it first. So listen when you see it. We'll try to get a schedule more regularly for you once we get going. Guys, I got to say, for preseason game 1s, pretty locked in for the whole time on my end. I'm always locked in, but sometimes my interest will try to wane in some of these preseason games. Not at all, man. And I think that's probably the Trey Lance factor. How was it from your perspective out there at SoFi?
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. I think anytime you have a young quarterback or a quarterback that obviously the rookie quarterbacks this week in preseason games, I think those stand out the most. And then because the Cowboys have a guy in Trey Lance, they gave up a 4th round pick, former top 5 pick, he's still a young guy. This is the first time you're getting to see him when the opponent can actually tackle him. And so, yeah, there's a lot of, he was the number one thing that I was interested in watching, and also because of the fact that I knew he would play a lot, and that will continue in these next 2 preseason games. But, I mean, what we saw is pretty similar to what we see in training camp practices from him. The positives are his athleticism. He obviously can run. He led the team in rushing last night, so that, he's got that part of his game. The other part of it is he doesn't turn the ball over a lot. But the problem with that is that's because he often throws high. And so he's not putting the ball in harm's way a ton, but he's also limiting his chances of making big plays. And I thought we saw that against the Rams yesterday, where it was just one of those things where, you're not putting the ball in harm's way, but are you making enough plays to capitalize? And he really didn't do that. In a game where your defense takes the ball away 4 times and you don't turn it over, I mean, you have to win that game. I don't care if it's a preseason game, whatever. So that was a little disheartening. I just kind of wondered watching in the press box if things had gone differently on his first possession. Cooper Rush started the game, only played the first series. So Lance comes in and marches them down the field, and they get a 4th and 1 from the Rams 3. And they probably should have run the ball, or the play call could have been better, and Mike McCarthy admitted as much after the game. But he ends up throwing high to Jalen Cropper in the left corner of the end zone, and it just was not a high percentage throw. And so you just kind of wonder if the play call was a little bit better, and he executes there, scores a touchdown in his first possession. How different are things for the rest of the game? But he never was able to get them in the end zone. And so because of that, I think inconsistent is the best way to put it. And fortunately for Trey Lance, we'll see him in 2 more preseason games, probably playing just about as much as he played yesterday.
Yeah, I think one thing that, I was talking about this with John yesterday as well, is I think Trey Lance obviously didn't have a barn burner of a game or anything like that, but at the same time, like, I think what kind of works against him as well is that you see these young quarterbacks around the league in recent days: Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Bo Nix yesterday. I think Zach Wilson even had a great game.
Yeah.
You see all these guys having great games, and you're like, it'd be one thing if everyone was kind of coming along slowly, but I mean, Trey Lance has been in the league. I know he hasn't played a lot of football, but he's been in the league for a minute, and you kind of just want to see more. But I thought John put it best. It was pretty much a carryover exactly from what we've seen in Oxnard. There was really nothing too different. There were throws that, to me, the throw to Cropper on 4th and 1, if that was better, then we may not even be talking about the play call, because Cropper was open on that play too. So there was that. And the one that I guess stands out to me the most is his miss to Princeton Fant in the end zone, because that's a play where it's not even about overthrow or anything. He just missed him. He didn't see him. It was in the second half. He had to check it. He checked it down to Cam Johnson, I believe. But Princeton Fant was a blown coverage. He was all alone. And again, that's a play that Trey Lance, we've seen with his arm talent, but also like his reads have been a little bit slow all throughout Oxnard as well. So I think that kind of stood out to me a little bit as well.
I was kind of surprised with how many times he threw the ball as well. 41. If you told me going in he was going to throw 41 times and run 6, like and I'm saying this because there's no reason to think the plan's going to be any different in these next 2 preseason games. And so he's going to get the opportunities, to show what he can do and show some growth from each of these games going forward. So it's going to be interesting to watch, and that's good, because it might be one of very few interesting storylines on this team because of, preseason games. Mike is not going to play. Dak's not going to play. CD's not going to play. So I don't know that, I don't know that we're going to see some tremendous leap from him where all of a sudden the next game because again, it looked like practice. So I don't think that he's done enough to, beat out Cooper Rush for the backup job, but Jerry Jones owns the team. And if Jerry Jones wants him on the team, he's going to be on the team. So just because he didn't look great yesterday doesn't mean that, he's played himself off the 53. I don't think that you can say that right now.
This is what's complicated of him not being a rookie, him being a 4th round pick. You traded a 4th round pick to get him, but his contract status comes into play, where if you could just kind of mold this and incremental growth. That's how a normal organization would handle someone like this. But this is a way different circumstance because of his contract and how long Trey Lance has been in the league, despite not having that many attempts, despite not having many attempts in college, and that's where, the one comparison, and again, a major disclaimer for me if I ever reference them, but it's something that I can speak to very candidly, is that, so we've seen all young quarterbacks struggle in preseason, especially guys who are sitting there are not going to be the starter. What he did yesterday, as I was watching that, I went, man, that's not different than Jordan Love's first year of preseason in Green Bay, when he didn't have he had a few college snaps at Utah State, and he kind of looked like he just wasn't ready. Problem is Trey Lance has been in the league for a while, but he hasn't played in a while. And so you have all these things, and what I wrote down on my notes, I understand why it would be so hard or easy to give up on him. I understand it would be so hard to give up on him, and why it would be very easy for San Francisco to give up on him as well. If I was a wide receiver too, or tight end, I'd be going, oh my God, I'm going to get killed playing with this guy, because he's throwing the ball into traffic. He's not putting the ball in the right spot. But, show me how you look Saturday night against Las Vegas. Let's see that growth, and then you feel a little better about it. But it's hard to, you're right, dude. It is nuts when you look back on it. 41 throws for a guy who hasn't played. That's kind of crazy.
Well, I think also, KT, you talked about it being hard to move on from. I think if Dak has a 4-year contract extension, it makes it a lot easier because now you're like, okay, well, like, the reason why you're still riding with him is because his ceiling is NFL starter, right? I mean, that's what everyone thinks is like the ceiling is NFL starter. You're not just trying to find a good backup quarterback because you already have a good backup quarterback. And to John's point, if Jerry wants to keep Trey Lance on, like, Trey Lance hasn't done enough. He wasn't Stetson Bennett to where he's done enough to, play his way off the 53, but he might not be QB2, but they might keep 3 quarterbacks if Jerry wants to. And so there's that, but like the problem is that everyone looks at his ceiling, and that comes into play even more because you don't have a single quarterback under contract, including Trey Lance. But and I know everyone says that, but obviously you can get Trey for a lot cheaper than what Dak is going to come for. And so if Dak was under contract already, you could kind of, after the preseason, wash your hands and say, all right, Dak's our guy for the next 5 years. Trey wasn't going to be sitting here for the next 5 years anyways. And so let's just, let's go with Dak and Cooper Rush. And then if Cooper walks after the season, we'll find another backup quarterback or something, but you have your QB1. Right now, you don't even have your QB1 for 2025. And so I think that's what adds a little bit of that intrigue to Trey Lance.
Yeah, and another thing I do want to say about him, like, I was thinking about quarterbacks of Cowboys past, though, who have gotten run in preseason games. And you go, man, it does look good sometimes. And when it looks good, you're like, man, well, I'm not wasting time with it. No offense, Danucci, or, when I see the default Cowboys quarterback name. But you know what I'm talking about? Like, so there's something to that as well. We've set up a Discord server. I say Ken has set up a Discord server for us. If you want to get on that, just download the Discord app. It's the One Star Cowboys podcast. And there's a lot of cool little channels in there. One of those is the in-game chat. And Kent, you've got some Discord comments from some of our listeners on the Trey Lance experience.
I do. And link to the Discord in the show notes description as well. Just click that to join us. And this will be a great place during games for us to all collectively keep our thoughts in one place. Kayshawn had some thoughts on Lance. He said, showed some flashes, but doesn't seem to be an NFL quarterback. LKC Light says he's overthrowing quite a few throws to wide receivers, still needs time to learn how to throw where wide receivers are going to be. And Tuism said it was his first game in 3 seasons. I think 2 seasons. It was.
Yeah.
Arm strength was there. Accuracy wasn't. Still think Dallas wasted the pick, and he won't even come close to beating out Cooper Rush.
Yeah, that's hard because, like, you sit there and go, let me just say, do all 4 of us agree? I don't know that we do. Do all 4 of us agree that it was a wasted draft pick? Because it's easy thing to say now, but like when you have so many other teams, like how many of us were on board when this trade happened?
I'm not going to sit here and say that I thought it was the greatest thing ever, but I don't think it's bad.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the way I look at that trade. I kind of look at it similarly to the Niners missing on him. They took him 3. Well, you think that he was a 2nd round pick? He was going to be gone by 4, 5, 6.
Yeah,
I mean, he was going in the top 10. So it's like, it's not like they made Trey Lance available and it was like, you guys could have grabbed him as a free agent. They were just going to cut him. That was never going to happen. So he probably goes to another team for a 5th. So to trade him to an NFC team, one that you've played in the playoffs multiple times, you probably had to pay a little bit of a premium on him. So they give him a 4th round pick. I just hate judging it on hindsight because, yeah, I don't have a great feeling that this thing's going to work out and Trey Lance is going to be with the Cowboys for several years going forward. But you also got to take chances on some things, And if the people in that building that watch players, that scout players, that scouted Trey Lance had told you, hey, yeah, this guy's worth a 4th round pick. Yes, it hasn't been great in San Francisco. We think he can do this, this, and this. And we really like what Mike does with quarterbacks. We think we can coach up that and that he needs to get better at. It would not be that difficult to sell anybody if you were working in a front office. If you had the right people tell you, hey, no, we like this in the draft process. We're not going to use them like San Francisco did completely. We're going to do our own thing. You could sell a lot of people on the whole deal. I think it's so easy to rip the Cowboys for moves like this because they're the Cowboys and they do things where it can be easy to rip them. But I don't know how you win 12 games each of the last 3 seasons if you're just awful. And I know I've said that before, but I just have to keep bringing it up because I think people forget, like, yeah, it's not great. I don't put them in that top 5. Maybe they're not even top 10 organizations. But I feel like sometimes people act like they're just like bottom 5, bottom 10. They're not.
They're not.
You're not winning 12 games in a row, 3 seasons. Like you're not doing that if you're that bad. So the idea that this is just like, oh, another dumb Cowboys move, that's kind of just a lazy take to me.
Yeah, and I think, at the time, I thought the trade was kind of interesting because of the whole Dak thing. I don't know if you're like doing this, drafting Jordan Love to light a fire under Aaron Rodgers type thing, if that was what was going on. I think in hindsight, sometimes, people might be a little bit more down on the trade because you saw what Kenny Pickett went for. You saw what Justin Fields went for. You saw what Mac Jones went for to Jacksonville.
Were those all before?
Value. Those were all after.
Those are all
right.
after.
There we go.
Yeah,
okay,
that's
sorry.
what. That's
just want to clarify this. Continue.
Yeah, that's why I said hindsight and not at the moment. And so I think in hindsight, when people look at those trades and how they went down, people might be a little bit more down on the Trey Lance trade. So I personally, when that trade happened, I didn't think it was a bad trade. I just didn't. I guess I was like, it's worth the gamble.
You also expected them to draft a running back at some point, and maybe or another position of need, but running back's the one that jumps out. But that'll probably do it. If you have any more Trey Lance thoughts or anything,
well, to John's point of value, I think he wasn't going to go in the top 10, obviously, but he was a much more hyped prospect than Dak Prescott, and they turned Dak Prescott into what he is. So, I think the 4th round pick in their mind is kind of a barometer for a developmental quarterback. And they've done it once before. They probably thought they could do it again with Trey.
Well, you can include Romo in there too. You can say their last 2 franchise quarterbacks.
Yep.
But even with that being said, I get the being negative about the Cowboys because of the way things have gone this offseason. Believe me, covering the team, it frustrates me. I don't know if people can tell in my voice, but I get frustrated with the lack of movement, the lack of deals, all of that, just like fans do. But it's one of those things where even though that they have found Romo and they have found Dak, you can count me among the people that think if they let go of Dak, I'm not super confident they're going to just find another guy like that. You almost feel like, okay, the odds are they really in your favor? You're going to do it again like that. And then you see all these teams that do, invest, like all the names that Saad mentioned of all these guys that got traded because it didn't work out, like Fields and, Mac Jones. I mean, you can just go down the list. Zach Wilson, So even if they draft one high, there's no guarantee that hits either. So basically what you're doing is it's kind of like a lottery thing. And so they took a 4th round lottery ticket and they spent it on Trey Lance. The part that makes me laugh a little bit is this fact that everybody just completely puts it in this slot of if they don't take Lance, they would have taken that running back there. And they've shown you nothing over the last 2 years to say they would have taken a running back there. Who's to say that they don't take another Viliami Fehoko there? Now, of course, hey, this is sports. You can make an argument for their side. Maybe they take the next Tony Pollard there or Jake Ferguson or Tyler Biadasz. Believe me, I know that they've been able to find 4th round picks. To be honest with you, they're probably about 50-50 there, which is pretty good for a 4th round. So don't get me wrong in that. But the whole that would have been their running back. I don't know. This team has pretty much showed that they don't put very high value on the running back position. So that's my one argument there.
I think running back just comes up because that is the clear, glaring position where you go, well, we could use an immediate upgrade. And that's a position where you do think that guy can usually help you immediately. I got a little anxious about just how I thought about it. So I went back and looked up my tweet from the day of the trade because we always had to put out bad takes. It says, I kind of like the trade for Trey Lance as long as Mike McCarthy has the wherewithal to use him immediately on offense. See? Maybe we're thinking about Trey Lance the wrong way, or I'm thinking about Trey Lance the wrong way, because throwing the ball 41 times is something that's not going to happen until possibly next year, but probably not too.
Well, also, if the expectation is
right to let's use this guy in some way on offense. If the Saints Taysom Hill, then we can do something like that with him.
Yeah, that's where I was going, is like if you start using him like Taysom Hill, which honestly the 49ers kind of did too when he started. Remember, like he came in sparingly in the red zone and kind of played like that. So if you used him like Taysom Hill, I think that would be a different story. But you're looking at him as the future franchise quarterback, and that's not the standard he's lived up to so far.
I have a little empathy towards Trey Lance because when he got injured in 2022 in week 2 or week 1, whatever week that was, they were playing that game in a freaking bathtub. I mean,
It was week 1 against the Bears.
Week 1, and we're sliding around, and I don't think he sucks. I think he deserves time. His contract doesn't allow that. We'll see what happens Saturday night. Move on. Gun to your head. First name jumps out at you that really jumped out at you in yesterday's game.
Tyler Guyton.
DeMarvion Overshown.
All right. Now we're talking. Start with you, Saad. You answered first. Tyler Guyton.
Yeah, there were just 2 plays that really come to mind on Trey Lance's first drive that really stood out to me. And the first one was Trey threw an incompletion deep, and Tyler Guyton had his man and just completely walled him off to the outside. It was an outside rush, and that his man did not come near the quarterback. And then on the second play, he completely washed his guy all the way inside, and that was the play that Trey Lance tucked. It was a pass play, but that was the play he tucked and ran the ball up the middle for a big gain. And then, just watching Guyton play against the run and everything, there's just all the signs that, he's already kind of in the realm of being a solid tackle. I'm not saying he's, picking up where Tyron Smith left off, because that's gigantic shoes to fill, literally and figuratively. But I think he was very impressive to me, the way that he played, and the technicality of the way he played, like just, how technically sound he was, and then how physical he was. It was great to watch.
Yeah, I agree with Saad too. I think Guyton would be number 1. I say Overshown though, because he had a couple nice run stops early, including one. I think he held the carrier for maybe about 2 yards, but just the way he came up, kind of got around a blocker and then just made that quick hit and just showed some of that stuff that we saw a year ago, that kind of that unique athleticism that he has. It was interesting to see him make that play because, one, it shows you how healthy his knee is, and you always wonder about that with guys coming back from ACLs. And then 2, it was after the play, for me, the way he celebrated it. You could tell he was real juiced up about that, and they need that. They need that in the run game big time. And he made a few tackles. He didn't play a ton, but the little bit that he did play, there's reason to believe that he could be the player that we saw last year around this time before he got hurt, that he might just be able to pick up where he left off. And again, it's just because of the ACL, I'm always kind of hesitant to say, oh yeah, a year removed, the guy will be fine and look like the player he was before, because you just don't know that for sure. But from what we've seen at camp and then what we saw in his brief playing time yesterday, he does look like he's all the way back.
Micah does a lot of things on defense, but it's been, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like it's been 6, 7, 8 years since that prime, or not prime, but like the big time linebacker kind of changing games for us on defense, like Sean Lee used to do. It's your last example of it. And obviously that's not the most valued position at all, but we have kind of maybe forgotten a little bit of what it's like to have a guy like that helping out in the run game, making huge plays and flying around like that. And I'm with you. It was good to see him. Both of these guys. I was a little surprised that they put Guyton back out there, knowing what was going on with Chuma Edoga, which I think we should probably talk about. I guess we'll get more official news probably, or I'm sure they'll comment on today, but Chuma Edoga leaves with a toe injury. Obviously had the walking boot on, which a lot of people wear the walking boot these days, but that doesn't seem good. I don't know about y'all. Were y'all surprised they put Guyton back out there? Because I was almost kind of in bubble wrap mode at that point too.
I mean, surprised, I guess a little bit. I mean, Tyler Guyton's working back from something himself, and nothing physical, but an illness. So maybe they were just pacing him a little bit in that situation. But the way that Christy Scales for Cowboys Radio made it sound, I did think that that he was kind of done after that first time he went out. And so because of that, I was a little surprised. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what Chuma's situation is. But I do think even prior to Chuma's injury, Guyton was kind of working his way to being the starting left tackle anyways, and maybe you see him a little bit more in Vegas, but I don't think you're going to see him at all against the Chargers for sure. But I wasn't shocked, but it was a little surprising because of the injury.
Not to get too off topic here, but just something I wanted to mention from the game that kind of stood out to me a little bit here is the, obviously DeMarcus Lawrence doesn't play, Micah Parsons doesn't play. There was just not very much pressure on opposing quarterbacks for a Rams team that's all we had heard coming into last week's open practice with them about how bad their offensive line is and how banged up they are. And I don't think there's great depth behind, Lawrence, Parsons. I think Marshawn Nealon will be fine. I think there's another piece that has to be added there. They need another edge rusher that's going to bring them a little something more. And they're trying Fehoko there and Darrell Johnson and some other guys. But, man, I really wonder about now that you're not going to have Sam Williams for the whole season. I think a move needs to be made to add another pass rusher.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I'm very intrigued with that because when it comes to the Cowboys defensive line before the Sam Williams, injury, and I guess even after it, we're a lot of focus on defensive tackle, which, by the way, we'll talk about Mozzie in a minute as well. I thought Carl Davis was pretty good yesterday at DT, but I do agree with you that, and part of that might just be the roster waiting game of let's see if some team has a surplus somewhere else and we could do something there. Well, what would you say our deepest positions are? Safety. I mean, trade draft picks or something like that, but they've brought in constant defensive tackles. Couple pass rushers, I guess they brought in, but nothing crazy. Shaka Tony, and I do. Yeah, I'm with you on that, man.
Trey Lance.
We're really getting close to the Stetson Bennett show.
You asked where you go, where are we deep at?
We might be, actually. It's weird. I mean, I would take our quarterback over most.
Package up Trey Lance for a defensive end.
I don't know. Yeah.
Trey Lance and a pick. The corner, they got good depth at corner, but they're not parting ways with any of them. You know what I'm saying? Like their top four corners, they're not gonna move off of those four guys. So yeah, I would say, you could potentially do something at safety, but I really think they like the four that they have there. So that seems like that would be unlikely. There really isn't any, unless a team liked one of their other tight ends, I guess, maybe, but no, there's not a lot of great depth on the team. That's for sure. That's kind of what happens when you don't do much in the offseason.
They're deep at linebacker, but it's kind of like the secondary where they're not really parting ways with any of those guys. They're just deep enough to feel good about it themselves, not to where they have an excess.
That's a good way to put it. Just think about the time the player for player trades. We've seen a few, but
we just saw one with the Cowboys.
Well, yeah. I was thinking about the years back. Charvarius Ward is where I ended up going.
Kelvin Joseph.
Feeling pretty deep at corner. Let's get an offensive lineman in here.
And they traded Switzer for, what was the DT?
Jihad Ward.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Illinois. Yeah.
We just start running back all these moves. There's not really one that really worked out for you there.
Well, hopefully someone will just
Jihad Ward's still in the NFL, though. Just did not work out for Dallas.
Charvarius Ward probably is, and they traded him for Parker Ellinger or whatever. Who didn't play. So
yeah, he didn't play. Though he needs some O-line help. That's the thing, though, too. The position of pass rusher, quote unquote, or defensive end is like teams do have a surplus there. It's not like they're just like, here, help us somewhere else. Like the teams are pretty. They kind of keep those guys. This thing with Marshawn Nealon, let's talk about him for a minute because I thought he was good in his limited amount of playing time yesterday. I thought it was really, especially early, in the game. I actually thought him and Mozzie were really good in their time. I have questions about this. Might be a sports science doctor question. When is the right time to expect your players to be fully conditioned? Because it's not August 11th, but like, dude, Mozzie was gassed and he didn't play a ton. I mean, he played more than a lot of guys, but he was gassed. And I was like, man, I don't know, but it's early. August 31st, Can we expect him to play, how many percent of our snaps here? 60, 65% of snaps in a game? Like, I don't know. But I thought he was good in his time out there. I think Carl Davis was good and showed that he'll probably make the team easily. And maybe this is an easy team to make the team on in that position compared to others. I saw a lot of Neville Gallimore on Dolphins Twitter. A lot of Neville Gallimore tweets.
Oh, wow.
He had a good preseason game. If that makes you feel good or not.
I mean, that's really what they needed. Like, I'm not sitting here when I say they don't do anything in the offseason. I'm not sitting here making these like, they should have gotten Derrick Henry and some of these other things where, hey, if they do, great, whatever. But I'm just saying, where's a Neville Gallimore type player that you add at D tackle? When Hankins goes to Seattle, where is making a move there? And with the Sam Williams thing, well, obviously he goes down, so all the teams in the league know that, hey, Cowboys are probably looking for a DN. They're even using Micah more at traditional linebacker. They're definitely going to need a DN. So now it's probably not a great time, but at some point you got to make a move to probably add another pass rusher. And again, I'm not saying like it's going to be heck even Dorrance Armstrong, but where's like the Dante Fowler move from the the last couple of years? Like I'm not asking for a superstar move. It's for a solid veteran player that you can count on to be your number 4 D end,
As the name Carl Lawson always come up here.
There you go. That's a good one.
Same guys, same group of guys every time.
Something along those lines, yes.
It is crazy. Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Saad.
No, you got it.
We did some interceptions and things like that yesterday. 4 of them. Marquise Bell gets a pick. Eric Scott got an interception despite kind of not having a good day at the office, in my estimation. Neither one of those like a big athletic play, is more Stetson Bennett hitting you wide open in the zone. But good to see guys not named Deron Bland and Trayvon Diggs get some interceptions. Can I ask you guys a question about Mike Zimmer? This is going around, and I don't know if it's true or not. You guys may know. So there's big talk online that he called the game without using a play sheet.
Yeah. DeMarvion Overshown talked about that. And I think he wanted to do that because in a way, it's kind of like the kickoff thing, How much are these teams really going to show? Especially it's a new kickoff rule, so there's a newness there, so teams are going to want to show much. And if you're the Cowboys, one of your advantages when you really don't do anything in the offseason is that you've added a new defensive coordinator, so there's going to be changes there. And so, the offensive players and the defensive players have talked all camp about the disguise and how it's on a different level than things that they've seen before. So, that there's certainly something to look for there. But I just think that Mike Zimmer isn't going to show everything he has in his bag during the preseason. But, I mean, the guy's track record speaks for itself. I mean, whether you liked him as a Minnesota Vikings head coach or not, you can't say that he doesn't know ball. And you certainly can't say he doesn't know defensive ball. Like, I expect the Cowboys defense to be pretty good. I mean, I expect him to be a good defensive coordinator. That's what he's been in the league. He's been one of the better defensive coaches over the last couple of decades. So that would be no surprise to me that, one, they have success, and two, that the players like playing for him.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I don't know if that's like a big deal or not, and it's probably not at all, because I was like, that's something just not going to happen in the regular season, I would imagine, unless he's going off gut. And look at the early returns when you're playing against Stetson Bennett. Look out. Look at these interceptions. I don't know. That's probably dumb. But yeah, I'm happy with that. Probably not happy that you were able to get 12 points. Just think about all the things. John, you were right on the kickoff rule, man. Of all the preseason football I watched this week, and it was quite a bit. Teams just booting it out of the end zone and like, oh yeah, we'll let them start at the 30. This is your prediction at episode 1 of the podcast.
Well,
From what I saw,
know.
mainly was that.
Yeah, no. Saad has said that the entire time too. My whole thing is because I just hate kickoffs in general. I just think they're so boring, and so the only way that this new rule is even interesting is if there's big returns. No one's going to care if at the end of the season they're like, look at how this affected field position compared to 1996. No one cares. The only way people are going to care is if there are some big plays that come out of it that make it more entertaining. And we're not going to see that until the games, actually the real games start. They're not going to show anything in these preseason games. So up until this point, it's probably going to be pretty boring.
Yeah, and also I think in the big picture, I think you're going to have to make the penalty to start at the 40 than the 30. If you really, because I think the minute you get a few of those big returns, teams are just going to start booting it out of the end zone because it's going to be like, all right, we're already starting at the 25 last year. We'll take the extra. We'll give up the extra 5 yards for a 0% chance that you're going to return it for a touchdown. You talk about lottery ticket. I'll take that lottery ticket. So I think that's something that okay. Now if you start at the 40, if you boot it out of the end zone, now I can see it being where teams are gonna start doing it. I think if you can get your kicker to skip it into the landing zone and out of the end zone and start it at the 20, that's great. If your kicker is that talented and you're able to avoid the 2 return men and do that. But in general, we'll see what happens. I like John said, there's more creativity possibility, so they're not going to show that in the preseason. But I do think once you start getting a few big returns, it'll just start going out of the back of the end zone.
And like for the Cowboys, I think they're going to have a pretty good defense this year. I think it could be one of the things that makes this season turn out to be better than maybe we think it's going to be right now. And if you trust your defense, why are you messing around with any of it? Just kick it out of the end zone. You know what I'm saying? Like it just doesn't, the risk reward there. And to Saad's point where you say, the 40, Fossil was on that crew that obviously there was a lot of hours they spent in the offseason coming up with this. And he was trying to pitch him on 35. And I guess ultimately they were like, yeah, no, let's start with the 30. If nothing changes there, maybe next year, then they go to the 35. So there's going to be some trial and error with it. I have my doubts that all of a sudden it's going to make it really exciting. The one thing that could make it exciting, even if the plays maybe don't have the huge returns, is if we start seeing some players that maybe you wouldn't normally see in a return situation, whether it be like a wide receiver, or like a backup quarterback, or something like that, or I don't know, like just an athletic player who you're like, wow, we normally would never see that player on kickoff. Maybe that helps it,
Tyreek Hill.
No, I was thinking late in the game. The Ravens need a score, and they put Lamar Jackson back there or something like that.
Yeah.
Now, I don't expect that to happen, but that's the type of stuff where people will be like, okay, here we go. But if it's just one of those things where, because I think Andrew Whitworth said this on the game broadcast last night on NFL Network, that I believe last year it was the lowest number of kicks returned in NFL history, and so that's what kind of led to this whole change. If there's just a small change in it, like at the end of the year, I think that they will have to do something else. I don't know if they'll go all the way to the 40, but they're going to bump it up from the 30 because they need to make something happen there. It's clearly a game that's made for TV, or they would just leave it the way it was and be like, hey, this is just tradition. This is how we've always done it, But they're trying to make it more interesting, and because of that, if it is like it has been in the past, they'll make more changes, and maybe they'll go too far.
Well, we got a kicker at least. That's good. I mean, when you're one miss, which it took him forever to miss his first kick last year, when you're one miss in a preseason game is a 65-yarder that would have been good from 70. Feel pretty good about that. And we talked about this a little bit on the last episode, maybe more than anyone should talk about kickers, but it hits home one more time. Like, he's a weapon, and I'm glad he's on my team because there's some other teams in the league. You can feel how nervous they are with 3 kickers in camp and trying to split up who's getting the preseason game kicks and things like that.
I'll just say this. I thought it was very interesting. I always say whenever I bring up the whole people being able to watch Cowboys practices sometimes, whether you don't know who's in those buildings around the thing. And I just found it interesting that they practiced inside the entire week before the Packers game. I don't know. There's just there's just something about like there's like little things that happen that I'm always just like, well, what's the bigger picture here? Why was this happening? And that whole thing might have been just a coincidence that, hey, they just wanted to move inside. And so because of that, maybe there's nothing to it. I just remember it wasn't very cold outside at that time. Anyway, the point I'm making is maybe it's just conspiracy theory. I think Aubrey is such a good weapon that even just might just be a small part. But I think he factored in a little bit of why they never even opened the doors of the roof last year. There's always usually a game or two where they'll open them. And it's not like that stadium we were in last night is, on TV, it probably looks like it's completely closed. But there is, it's open in certain areas and stuff like that to give you a little bit of an outdoor. So there is at least some element there, just a little bit. And because I think that kick yesterday, if it's at AT&T Stadium, doors, roof, all closed, I think he probably makes it, He's very comfortable there. I think he factors in on that decision because it was interesting last year that they never opened him once for any game.
Well, and also another interesting thing was Mike McCarthy after the game said he wanted to try Aubrey from 70 plus yesterday, but Fossil wasn't feeling it and didn't want to do it. But he wanted to give him a shot from more than 70 just to see what he's got. So
just think about that, Saad. Think about forget what they're even talking about. Think about living in a world where Fossil has to talk McCarthy out of doing something that might be wild. Because that does not seem like something that happens very often.
Yeah.
Thought that he would try it too hard and might, tweak something. Is that
potentially.
The first thing that comes to mind, I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, let him go from 65. What a weapon. All you need is one of those little funky new kickoffs to put you in field goal range, right? You take a new return from the landing zone. I say we need to be working on this, to be honest. I would get some reps in the preseason. You don't have to show everything. You just show your blocking schemes. But I think it's going to be weird in week one. And I think we're going to have some, I'll call it right now, over 1.5 kickoff returns for a touchdown in week one. Because I think average teams are not going to be prepared for it. Because you can simulate it all you want in practice. Let's get to the CeeDee Lamb stuff.
And you don't know what your opponent's going to do.
No, you don't.
You can sit there and you can prepare for everything, and then all of a sudden your opponent does something where all it takes really, I mean, I've seen it before on kickoff returns, whether it's college or pro, you just get one guy that, kind of tweaks his hamstring on a return or something, takes him out of the play, and all of a sudden something huge opens up. All it's going to take is one or two players not to be on the same page with the other guys, and then all of a sudden something opens up. But yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe there will be some wild stuff early on. I hope there is because, man, I don't think there's anything more boring than that kickoff.
Yeah. KT, before you move on, just one last quick thing from the preseason game. We talked about a lot of the positives. Just one thing, it's not negative, but it wasn't a bright spot in the game. I think Kalen Carson had been building a lot of hype throughout camp, and rightfully so. He's been making a lot of plays. There were some growing pains for him yesterday. Eric Scott had a bad game, but Kalen Carson, they went after him a little bit, and it was just a reminder that these things do take time. So I just wanted to mention that because that was something that stood out from the game as well.
Well, it's also a reminder, and I think we're all high on Kalen Carson. It's also a reminder of like what happens at practice. Out there sometimes, you could just shift it to a different location real quick, and things change mighty quick. I mean, dude, Jamil Showers was looking pretty good at quarterback for a little bit. We've all done these things. TJ Vasher, one-handed catches and looking like a beast. It's like, is that going to play? TJ Vasher, though. Tim and Tech. He's kind of fun guy. Okay, let's move on to CeeDee Lamb. Jerry, of course, goes on with the Blue Star Network before the game, does his interview. Sure, you guys saw the quotes and all that good stuff. Nothing much has changed, I would imagine. John obviously sets off the firestorm the other day on a tweet that within an hour had 11 million views. I mean, Saad, I imagine you're out there watching this going, were you giving John a towel and water? Because there's a lot going on.
No, I just like, I saw Jerry talking and I saw John there and I knew we were in good hands. So, so that there wasn't anything that I needed to do in that situation.
He talked for like probably about 10 minutes, and there was like nothing really that interesting. But when he said that, I'm like, well, that's pretty notable. And here's the thing, like a lot of people will comment, stop talking to Jerry, stop asking him questions. But like when he talks, he's like, who's more powerful in sports than him? He's the general manager and the owner of the team. Everybody in the organization can say, whatever, draft Johnny Manziel. And he can still draft Johnny Manziel. I mean, heck, we can just use the whole thing. Everybody in the organization can sit there and tell him, literally, after the third preseason game, cut bait. It's time to move on from Trey Lance. And he can be like, nah, I gave up 4th round pick. Lance is on the 53. Well, then Trey Lance is on the 53, So
yeah,
when he talks, like, he is the final decision maker. And so when he said that he's not having any urgency at all about it, I'm just kind of like, I'll put that out there, whatever. And I don't think it gets as much traction or became as big of a deal if CeeDee didn't respond to it. And then also the fact that another factor is that CeeDee is not like, I won't name any other players. You can figure this out. He's not like a lot of guys that tweet a lot. And so then when you only tweet so often, it makes it stand out more because he's not a guy that throughout this entire contract process has been just, firing off thoughts like some other players in the league have and will do in the future. And so I think that factors in with it as well. But I think Jerry just saying that, I don't think it would have, I just think people are used to, I don't think it was on the same level as Zeke who, but I thought there were some similarities.
Well, and then you had Micah Parsons retweeting CD, so essentially endorsing CD's side of this thing. Could this happen again when Micah comes up here shortly?
Yeah.
And
And
I think he would tweet a little more about it if he's in that.
He'll be on his podcast.
Yeah. Also, CD changes his wallpaper on his Twitter to picture of him and Hollywood Brown, who plays for the Chiefs now. I mean, look, if your head wanted to be spinning, if you wanted to, this reaffirmed why we talked to Jerry, and it also reaffirmed something that I don't know if it doesn't bother me. It's just it's something I think about a lot. There's not a lot of people there at training camp. That was a story for a couple of days, right? Fans are just kind of like, no, dude, because all it takes is one thing, one tweet from John about something Jerry said that's quoted, and everyone's buzzing and talking about the Cowboys again. It's that simple. So don't come at me with this, I don't really care that much. No, all of you care. Every single one of you care, and you should, because it's awesome drama. It's great.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say the one thing that did kind of annoy me personally, it's someone who knows John and also was there when all this happened. Like, the whole context thing is just ridiculous. And the reason why I think about that too is because of what you just brought up, KT, about the fans not being there. Everyone's like, well, what's the context, this and that. Sometimes it's just what it is. Sometimes there's not as many Cowboys fans as there were 5 years ago. Jerry said what he said. There was no like missing context. There was no like, like he's doing it for the traffic. Like there was none of that. It wasn't that case in the attendance situation. It wasn't that case in the CD urgency situation. I think sometimes people always try to both sides some conversations where there's really not another side to it. It just kind of is what it is.
One, I would love to know who was, if you guys can remember, or anyone listening, I would love to know, do you remember who was the first athlete to do the whole, the team's doing this? That's fine. I'll show them. I'm taking their name off my Instagram account. Because I feel like that's very like the last 2 or 3 years, but maybe it's longer. But it is interesting how that is such a go-to move nowadays.
Sure.
In all of sports, really. But with all of that being said, the only other point I wanted to add on it is today, the day Jerry said that, last week, the day we showed up for training camp, I have never felt any different. I still think the deal gets done. That means nothing. Like when people think that, Jerry's rattled the cage and CD's mad. Yeah, we've seen this. Jerry does this all the time. But then when the player gets that contract, everything's fine. They're happy. Yeah. And I just still think that that's going to happen here. I think this deal gets done before the opener. CeeDee Lamb, I just don't see where CeeDee Lamb's going to be on the field week 1 against the Browns. So maybe there's some rust early on because he wasn't in practice or something like that. And that'll be a storyline for us to talk about. People have mentioned how, Zach Martin he was good last year, but maybe not as good as some previous years. Was that because he wasn't at the start of training camp? Who knows? But that will certainly be a storyline if CD gets off to a slow start. I don't foresee that happening. think he's a guy who's, entering the prime of his career. He obviously has a good rapport with Dak Prescott, but I still think things get done. I don't think any of Jerry's comments would prevent that from happening. Ultimately, I just think both sides will figure something out. Jerry just doesn't have a great sense of urgency to get CeeDee on the field is the thing, because you bring him out to training camp, there's a chance he gets hurt, so you're eliminating that without him being here, and then you're getting opportunities for guys like to find out what Tyron Billy Johnson can do with the ones. Jalen Brooks getting more work with the ones that you wouldn't get if CeeDee Lamb was here, and so I think there's a part of Jerry that likes being able to see that and maybe evaluate a little bit more, because there's no question if CeeDee Lamb's here, he's going to be the king of all the highlights that are coming out of these camp practices, and so it gives you a chance to evaluate some of your other receivers. So there's that to it as well. But it is still a little surprising when the owner says that he doesn't have, this great sense of urgency to get that done, because I don't think anybody, even CeeDee's harshest critic, would have him in their top 5 most important players and probably top 2 or 3.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. It's just, I'm not even concerned about it. I'm concerned about all 3 of them, I guess, and the future. To me, we all know this. The Dak one's important, and letting that go to a highest bidder thing in the offseason or whatever that comes to, no matter how things go for this team in January.
Yeah,
I think is a foolish way to do business, but I don't know. We're raving about JJ McCarthy after one preseason game up in Minnesota,
Yeah, it is interesting too, because of Jerry's reputation and the 28 years without winning a championship. It is pretty fascinating, how fast, he gets most, if not, I don't know, 90% of the blame. And he was not in the field against the Packers. And there's just very little talk of how really everybody came up short on that field. That is such a long ago storyline. And I thought about that a little bit, because yesterday was obviously the first time that they were on the field since that Packers loss. Yeah. And I'm just yeah, I get Cowboys fans. It's easy to make fun of Jerry and be critical of him and stuff like that. But he's got pretty thick skin, because he wears it way more than anybody else does for being a guy that was not on the field in that game. You can argue everything off the field, the way he handles contracts, too slow to pay this guy, hired this guy around, but they were in a position that, you can't get blown out at home to the Green Bay Packers in that game. Yeah. And no one's really talking about that. I think Dak gets it a little bit just because he's in a contract year. But outside of that, no one really brings it up with any of the players that were on the field during that game.
It was such a storyline in that game, too, that Dak and CeeDee were not on the same page.
Yeah.
No, it's just it's tough. Can I this will be quick. I just saw this. There's a book coming out next week. I got to do this for Kent. There's a book coming out next week. It's the Aaron Rodgers book. And there are a couple excerpts that have been reported out that do involve some of our Dallas Cowboys brethren. Would you like to hear a couple of these excerpts that have been reported from the Aaron Rodgers book?
I got to go.
All right.
Yes, we want to hear them, of course.
Okay. This is going to be juicy here. Apparently the book's going to talk about Rodgers being estranged from his family. There's a big Olivia Munn element. There's even some Kyrie Irving stuff in there, which is weird.
I'm very interested already. Continue.
Okay. Why Rodgers was upset with Packers coach Mike McCarthy during his most devastating defeat, the 2014 NFC Championship game. That's the game in Seattle after the Dez Caught It game.
Yeah.
Rodgers.
This is going to be, I want to read before you say it.
Yeah.
This is going to be really fascinating, because since McCarthy's been gone, Rodgers now is on his second coach since McCarthy. And they all get along great with him. So this is going to be interesting that he has something with Mike. Everybody else gets along with him. So I'm fascinated that this is the only relationship that with his coach. He would never scream at any coaches on the sideline or do anything where he just doesn't randomly show up to stuff he's supposed to be at. But no, let me hear this. I'm fascinated.
So in that game, the 2014 NFC Championship game, Rodgers wanted to call 6 plays he had seen on film that seemed indefensible when Dallas beat the Seahawks in the regular season. You remember the Week 5 game, the Terrence Williams, tiptoe catch. One veteran Packers player said Rodgers, one of those played called over and over against Seattle, and McCarthy only called a few of them one time each, and it made Rodgers mad. Also, in the book, the then San Francisco's 49ers head coach, Mike Nolan, who drafted Alex Smith instead of Rodgers with the first overall pick in 2005, Mike Nolan is still bothered that his offensive coordinator, Mike McCarthy, benefited the most from that decision. Quote, McCarthy had a lot to do with picking Alex Smith, and in the end, he got the one that he didn't even want, and it elevated his career, Mike Nolan says in the book.
Whoa, hold on.
Wow.
Tabasco Mike?
Hold on, he's quoted?
Yes.
That's not a sourced thing?
According to this article on ESPN.
Wow, because I've heard the story before about that, that Rodgers always kind of held that against McCarthy because he knew that, Mike was a big fan of Alex Smith over Rodgers. And so when Mike became the head coach in Green Bay, that was something that was always in the back of Rodgers' mind. So I don't know that that's new, but for Mike Nolan to go on the record with that, man, maybe he's salty that he only got 1 year in Dallas.
That's what I was kind of wondering. Maybe it's just that, but I didn't wake up today and expect a Mike Nolan quote in the Aaron Rodgers book to be something that I would think about at all. I'm pretty intrigued about this book now, though.
Well, I'm fascinated now just to think that if that is the case, if it was mad about that, I wonder if Mike Nolan thinks that, if he was coaching this defense, it would be doing the same stuff, with Micah and all that.
Yeah.
It's such a big leap for me because in my time covering the Cowboys, I can't think of a defense that was bad as 2020. And there was some bad defenses over the last 10, 15 years. But 2020, it's hard to keep your job after that one.
What if Mike Nolan goes, look, if McCarthy can use the COVID year excuse, then I can too.
Yeah. A lot of not that they did many big free agents, but a lot of the free agents they added, there were injuries or they just were ineffective. So, yeah, maybe he does think that. And then you see Micah Parsons, get drafted the following year and all of a sudden it all turns around. So, yeah, maybe he does. That's interesting because I can't say I've heard anything from Mike Nolan since he was fired.
Well, as we've learned
until
podcast,
this,
maybe we should read the book and get the full context.
Yes.
Take the viral clip.
Yeah. Hopefully there's some Tom Sula quotes in there as well.
Oh, my God. Give it to me. Yes.
He was a phenomenal quote. I was hoping he would work out because he was great to talk to. He said wild stuff that was always entertaining. I'll tell you, speaking of which, DeMarvion Overshown, I don't know if we've ever talked about this before. We don't get to talk to him a ton because obviously the injury, but man, he's a pretty entertaining quote. He doesn't give just the down the middle, whatever. He uses examples and stuff of, just, I don't know. Anytime he's ever talked, it seems like it's pretty intriguing, stuff like that. He's just got a cool personality.
It's weird seeing him in number 13 because it looks like Michael Gallup's flying around out there. Making
that is where linebackers were wearing team numbers.
Yeah, and while we're talking about this, I know that very first depth chart came out, and Maris Leofau was ahead of Overshown. Yeah, just don't read too much into that, guys. I just don't think that if Overshown is healthy and he's going to be on the field.
I saw that training camp highlight of Leofau just blowing up Tyler Smith and stopping that run. Did you see that?
Oh, yeah, they like him a lot. The upside there, they really like what he can bring. I just don't see him taking snaps away from healthy DeMarvion Overshown.
All right. Well, this is episode 3 of the One Star Cowboys podcast, kind of reviewing what went down in the Rams Cowboys preseason game 1. Also, the big CeeDee Lamb, John Machota tweet controversy. So much out there. We will be back soon. Again, once the regular season starts, you can expect us to be more regular, have a more regular schedule. You'll kind of know what to expect. Meanwhile, as we get through the rest of training camp and preseason with John and Saad out in California, we'll just kind of be popping up here and there. Obviously, we got a preseason game Saturday night, and we'll have a review for that for you probably on Sunday and things like that. So you can follow us on Apple, Spotify. It is the One Star Cowboys podcast, but if you wanted to give us 5 stars, That'd be wonderful. That'd be wonderful. We have a Discord set up. If you want to chat with us, chat with each other, 24/7 Cowboys talk happening over on Discord. Kent will have the link for you in the bio of the episode here that you clicked on for the link, but just download that Discord app, grab the One Star Cowboys podcast, and we can talk Cowboys. Talk about what happened at practice this week. It's another week in beautiful Oxnard, and then off to Vegas. John, are we going to catch a killer show or what, man?
I'm working on it. I think there's a high probability that I'm going to attend one of their shows this week.
20-year anniversary of Hot Fuss. It's a residency. You got to go.
Really? Oh, you got to go.
You got to go.
From Las Vegas?
Yeah.
I would have just given you my
makes
tickets,
sense.
but I sold them.
Eh?
But I don't want to go. So
Yeah.
find a good deal. You let me know. I'll make that fly.
How is that not at the Sphere? What are they doing?
I was hoping it was going to be, but yeah.
No,
That is disappointing.
we're not trying to sell out, man. We're trying to still play to the people that they're
The
from
Sphere's
surf
only for
industry.
retired bands or something?
No.
It kind of is now.
And I think the NHL draft. And maybe I think it was there.
UFC.
Why are you laughing? I'm
No,
serious.
that's just a wild event to have there. The
Wasn't
NHL
it?
Draft. It's in must.
Saad, help me out here.
I know it was in Vegas. I honestly don't know where it was at.
Oh wow, maybe I'm wrong. But and then I think they're gonna have or maybe they have had an MMA event there.
Yeah, they're getting the Eagles. There's a rumor, and I don't know if it's true, that the Zach Brown Band is playing a residency in 2025 at the Sphere, proving that if you're a band, you can play at the Sphere.
Zach Brown band got there before Dave Matthews, KT? What's up with that?
Look, I'm upset about it too. Look, all right,
That
guys,
is-
good work. You guys enjoy the weather. It's 98 here in Dallas. So we'll see you soon, and we can all sweat together. For Saad Yousuf, for Father John Machota, you follow him, and he gets lots of likes on his tweets. I don't know if you guys have seen that. Incredible. Follow that. For our producer, Kent Garrison, I'm Kevin, and we will see you next time on the One Star Cowboys podcast.
Have a great day.